So, NXT last night saw the latest development, I guess, in who will be likely Adam Cole's next challenger for the NXT Championship. Of course, Adam Cole retained the NXT Championship this past Sunday at NXT TakeOver in Your House, defeating the Velveteen Dream in the backlot brawl. Adam Cole is still the longest reigning NXT champion in the brand's history. Many people questioned, well, who is Adam Cole going to face next? Some people speculated it could be the likes of Finn Balor, Keith Lee, but it looks likely that Adam Cole will be defending in the future against Karrion Kross. Now, this was seemingly confirmed last night after the main event of NXT. The main event saw the NXT champion himself, Adam Cole, go up against Dexter Lumis. Now, a little bit of a tangent here, but Dexter Lumis is one of my favourite characters going in professional wrestling right now. He's so different, so unique, and just so something we haven't really seen before in WWE, or you said he's just so different, he's so unique, and obviously there's a lot of inspiration there from the TV series Dexter, unbelievable series if you haven't watched it, and the previous Sam Shaw, that's who he was in Impact Wrestling, of course. He used those Dexter Morgan qualities or took inspiration from the TV series Dexter during his time in Impact Wrestling, but it feels like he's evolved the character and he's changed it up and it's become more sinister and more just out there and different, and just, like I said, it's so unique and it's so wild. I'm just a huge fan of that character. Would have rather had Dexter Lumis not get pinned last night by Adam Cole, which is what happened on NXT. I feel that kind of character it needs to be protected. It needs to be protected. I'm not one of those people that loves a DQ finish or a no contest. I think they're overused and it kind of it takes you out of the stakes of a wrestling match, and it makes the viewer think, oh well, it's an easy way out essentially. And I always think you should be smart with your booking. But last night would have been one occasion, or one of the rare occasions, where I would have been fine with a no contest or a disqualification or something like that, because I don't think Dexter Lumis this early into his NXT run should be eating pinfalls, quite frankly. But it is what it is. I don't think it completely harms the character, but like I said, it's nitpick, and I would have rather not had that. But what we're talking about is the post-match angle. So after the match, we have a bit of a brawl. Dexter Lumis is brawling with the Undisputed Era. Out comes the Velveteen Dream, who assists in the brawl. Lumis brawls with Roderick Strong to the back. Velveteen Dream brawls with Bobby Fish to the back, leaving just Adam Cole in the ring on his own with the NXT Championship. The lights go out, though, as Adam Cole is celebrating, and out comes Scarlett, the former Scarlett Bordeaux. She walks down to the ring. It's lit tremendously. I mean, you have to give credit to NXT and WWE for the production values here. It's just fantastic. And in her hand, she has a sand timer, and she puts it in the ring and turns it upside down. The crowd, or the NXT superstars in the crowd, begin to chant TikTok, as I guess it's the TikTok of the time of Adam Cole's record-breaking NXT Championship reign running out. Now, I thought this was an absolutely tremendous end to the show, tremendous segment to the show. I was thinking, and I mentioned this on Twitter, that this would be really cool if they can figure a way of doing this out. But obviously now they've got the sand timer that they've put into the ring, which is signifying the end of Adam Cole's era. That time is running out on that NXT Championship reign. If they could plan it, and I don't know how they would do this. Maybe if they did a cinematic match, they could certainly do it that way. I'm not sure about a match live in front of the camera, but if they could do a way whereby when the sand timer runs out, when the final grain of sand hits the bottom of the glass, is the exact time that Adam Cole gets pinned and Karrion Kross wins the NXT Championship. I mean, that would be storytelling on the next level, wouldn't it? That would be an absolutely historical moment, just by how cool that would be. A visual of the exact time that it runs out is the exact time that Adam Cole gets pinned, or when it runs out, Adam Cole's looking at it going, oh no, my time's up. Then Karrion Kross hits the finisher and gets the victory and becomes the champion, or something along that line. Something along that line. That would be phenomenal. Or even, to be honest, even if it could run out the exact time the bell rings to start the match between Karrion Kross and Adam Cole, that would be different, as if say the time really is up. I think this feud with Karrion Kross and Adam Cole will be the time that Adam Cole drops the NXT Championship. As I mentioned, he's got the record-breaking reign. He's been champion over 1 year now, over 365 days. And I do think that Karrion Kross is going to beat him here. And I think that is going to start the beginning of Adam Cole moving to either Raw or SmackDown with the Undisputed Era. Now, there was a lot of discussion over the last few weeks or so whether Adam Cole's contract with WWE was expiring. We've since heard that that's not the case. I think that was just played up for storyline on TV. But by all accounts, he actually signed a new deal along with several other NXT talents once NXT moved to the USA Network last year. And that deal was a multiple-year deal with a raise. So it looks to me like Adam Cole isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He isn't going to AEW. He isn't joining his girlfriend Britt Baker in AEW. He is staying with WWE and most likely heading to Raw or SmackDown post dropping the championship to Karrion Kross, in my opinion. And let's be honest, the guy who beats the longest reigning NXT champion is going to get a huge rub. That is absolutely signifying that this person who beats him is going to be an absolute star. And it's no question that WWE see absolutely huge things in Karrion Kross. You just look at the way that he's been presented so far in his NXT career. They had the vignettes that were fantastically made, huge production value in those alone. He had his first TakeOver match this past weekend at NXT TakeOver in your house against Tommaso Ciampa, and that is the most dominant display of anyone against Tommaso Ciampa in NXT history. You look at someone of the caliber of Tommaso Ciampa, someone who has the history that Tommaso Ciampa does in NXT. He is almost Mr. NXT up there with Johnny Gargano, isn't he? He's gone on record saying that if he's ever forced to leave the brand, he'll retire. And think about just how much of a role that Tommaso Ciampa was on a couple of years ago when he was the NXT champion. This guy was unbeatable, and he was one of the hottest things going in WWE at all. So the fact that Karrion Kross could get such a dominant victory and such a dominant display and essentially squash Tommaso Ciampa shows the investment and shows the plans that NXT and the NXT executives have for Karrion Kross. You just look at his entrance alone as well. His entrance alone, there's been a huge financial investment and a time investment into that when it comes to the music, when it comes to Scarlett laying down the vocals for that. Like I said, the production element, the lighting, the way the camera shoots it, it's all for one reason, and that reason is to portray Karrion Kross as this huge star with huge potential that can do anything in NXT and furthermore in WWE. So I think he'll get the title straight away here. I really do. The fact that he's been thrust into the main event so quickly upon his debut. Some people are saying, is it necessary? Should he be continued to build up? But this isn't. There is precedent for this. You look at someone like Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens came straight in, had a debut takeover match. On the next takeover, he was competing for the title and won it. So this wouldn't be the first time that this has happened, and this could be another case of that. Karrion Kross could come in, win the title straight away, hold it for a few months, and then be off to Raw and SmackDown. There were reports prior to Karrion Kross's debut and after he signed with NXT in that Karrion Kross wouldn't be on the brand for a really long period of time, perhaps maybe a year at most, similar to a Shinsuke Nakamura deal where it was he'll be on the brand for a year to get himself acclimatized and settled to a WWE style, but then he's off to Raw or SmackDown, and I think that will be the case with Karrion Kross here. You also have to look at the added package of Scarlett, who, to be honest, and I slightly disagree, but I do see the point what people are making, that she could absolutely be the big star here. She could be an even bigger star than Karrion Kross potentially. Now, some people are saying, oh, Karrion Kross is Mark Mero and Scarlett Sable. This is just a 2020 version of that. I disagree. I think Karrion Kross has a huge upside. I think his presentation's great. I think his work in the ring is great. But I won't disagree. I think Scarlett's also an absolutely huge star in the making. You look at her work in just Impact Wrestling alone, that got people talking. You look at, over the last 2 or 3 years, some of Impact Wrestling's most viewed videos on YouTube, pretty much 90% of them have to do with Scarlett Bordeaux. That's how many people she got talking about her. People wanted to watch her, and people wanted to watch her segments. So she could absolutely be an even bigger star here. But I think to compare them to the likes of Mark Mira and to compare them to the likes of Sable is, I think, a bit disingenuous to both talents there. Another question you have to discuss, I suppose, as well is Karrion Kross a heel or a face? And I think the answer to that is neither. Now, he was a heel, obviously, in the Tommaso Ciampa feud because he was going up against one of the biggest baby faces on the NXT roster. But in terms of what he is now, I don't think he's either. I think he's this shade of grey that professional wrestling doesn't do that often, whereby he's just a badass. He's not a heel or a babyface. He has no allegiances to good guys or bad guys. His only allegiance is to his partner, Scarlett. And I think that's great. I think that's a character that's got a deeper laying than just good guy versus bad guy. I think having more characters that have a shade of grey and aren't necessarily good or bad gets people more invested in the character because you're talking about them more. We're talking about Karrion Kross now, about whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. If he was presented as just a bad guy, this wouldn't even be up for discussion. But the fact that he is this grey kind of character, we're discussing it now, which is what WWE wants. They want you talking about the characters. The characters that are getting people talking are the ones that are going to make them the most money. So when does this Adam Cole Karrion Kross match happen? Well, I think it's likely to happen at the next TakeOver, which was scheduled to be NXT TakeOver Boston. Whether or not that actually happens now, it's very, very, very unlikely. SummerSlam isn't going to happen in Boston. NXT TakeOver isn't going to happen in Boston. Now, that's not to say that the next NXT TakeOver will be at Full Sail or the Performance Center. By that time, we could have a couple of venues that are willing to host NXT TakeOver. I suppose it's just a case whether WWE wants to move it out of the Performance Center or Full Sail, or whether they really want to take the risk from a PR point of view of if they're risking their talent, their staff, and any potential fans that could attend. I still suspect that they're probably going to have it in Full Sail University or the Performance Center, but a lot could happen over the next couple of months. We'll have to wait and see. But the build to the next takeover has already started, and that started at the end of NXT last night, with Scarlett laying out the sand timer for Adam Cole. But I think what we're going to see, we're going to see Karrion Kross versus Adam Cole at NXT TakeOver wherever, the one prior to SummerSlam. I think then in that match, Adam Cole's record-breaking NXT Championship reign comes to an end. And then once Adam Cole loses the NXT Championship, he will then appear on Raw or SmackDown, the post-SummerSlam edition of Raw and SmackDown. They always like to have big debuts on those post-SummerSlam editions of the show. So I think Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era will then appear on Raw or SmackDown going forward. And then this will lend to the next generation of NXT proceeding. We've kind of seen over the last few months that there has been a bit of a changing of a guard when it comes to NXT. There have been recent call-ups. You think of Matt Riddle, Dominik Dijakovic. I don't think Keith Lee will be on the brand much longer. There's been talk of Velveteen Dream. I think he is sticking around for quite a while on NXT to come. But this is a changing of a guard. We do see this in WWE history. There's certain generations, isn't there, of NXT talent. You go back to the Bayley, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens time. Then you move on to sort of the Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura time, Finn Balor, and now you move on to this time. There's certain, like I said, generations, it almost feels like, or certain seasons of NXT. And I think once Adam Cole leaves NXT and goes to Raw or SmackDown, which I am predicting to be post-SummerSlam, I think then we'll see the new generation of NXT, with the leader being Karrion Kross. He will then feud with a Finn Balor, and that will be the big feud heading into next year's WrestleMania NXT TakeOver show. I think Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross will be the match. But this is just one man's opinion on this channel. It's about your opinion as well. What do you think? Let me know what you thought of a potential Karrion Kross versus Adam Cole feud in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that in a second by waiting to the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. And don't forget to follow us on social media as well. It's at 365Wrestle on Twitter and at WrestleNews 365 on Facebook or Instagram. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.